For nearly a decade, the FBI chased a ghost. Every lead seemed promising. Every digital footprint looked real. Every investigation ended the same way. Nothing. No arrests, no face, no confirmed identity. Just another trail that disappeared into the vast architecture of the Internet. This wasn't a hacker breaking into one company or stealing a handful of passwords. This individual infiltrated governments, major corporations, financial institutions, telecommunications providers, and intelligence-linked systems spread across multiple countries. Investigators believed they were hunting one of the most sophisticated cyber criminals of the modern era. But the strangest part wasn't the scale of the attacks, it was the discipline. The hacker rarely bragged, never claimed responsibility, avoided underground fame, ignored the attention that most cybercriminals desperately sought. Instead, every operation seemed designed around one objective: stay invisible. For years, federal agents built task forces dedicated to finding the person responsible. Digital forensic experts reconstructed attack chains. Network analysts traced compromised servers across continents. International agencies exchanged intelligence around the clock. Yet every breakthrough dissolved into another carefully constructed dead end. The hacker always appeared to be one step ahead. How do you catch someone who leaves almost nothing behind? That question haunted investigators throughout the late 1990s and early 2000s as the Internet rapidly transformed from a niche communications network into the backbone of governments, finance, commerce, and national security. At the center of this new digital frontier emerged a new kind of criminal, one who never needed a weapon, never crossed a border, never physically entered the buildings they attacked. Only a keyboard, a modem, and extraordinary patience. Unlike Hollywood movies, elite hacking is rarely fast. It isn't frantic typing or glowing green code racing across giant screens. The most dangerous intrusions unfold slowly. Weeks become months, months become years. The first stage isn't breaking in, it's learning. Every employee directory, every forgotten web server, every outdated operating system, every third-party contractor, every tiny mistake hidden inside an organization's enormous digital ecosystem. The hacker spent more time observing than attacking. Investigators would later realize that some targets had been quietly studied for months before a single exploit was ever launched. The goal wasn't simply access, it was understanding. Understanding how administrators logged in, when security teams changed shifts, which backup systems existed, how software updates were deployed, where trust existed inside the network. Because trust, more than technology, became the weakest link. One compromised employee account could quietly unlock dozens of additional systems. One forgotten administrator credential could expose an entire enterprise. One neglected server could become the doorway into networks worth billions of dollars. And once inside, the hacker almost never rushed. Every action was deliberate. Privileges were escalated gradually. Logs were modified carefully. Backdoors were hidden inside legitimate system activity. Encrypted communications blended into ordinary network traffic. Even malware was designed to appear as normal software behavior. To investigators reviewing millions of daily events, nothing seemed unusual. That was the brilliance. The attacks weren't loud, they were invisible. As digital intrusions spread across industries, confusion grew inside law enforcement. The attacks didn't resemble traditional organized crime. Money wasn't always stolen immediately. Sometimes confidential research disappeared. Sometimes proprietary technology vanished. Sometimes government information was quietly copied without triggering alarms. Sometimes nothing appeared to happen at all. Months later, investigators would discover that entire networks had been monitored for years. By then, the evidence was already fading. The FBI assembled increasingly specialized cyber units. Digital evidence laboratories expanded. International cooperation improved. Internet service providers preserved connection records. Financial investigators followed cryptocurrency's early predecessors, anonymous payment systems, offshore accounts, and digital laundering techniques. Every investigation generated mountains of data: IP addresses, server logs, proxy chains, compromised computers, hijacked routers, stolen credentials. But nearly every clue pointed somewhere else. The hacker rarely connected directly. Instead, each operation bounced through layers of compromised machines spread across multiple jurisdictions. One connection led to another, then another, then another. By the time investigators reached the final system, they discovered it belonged to another unsuspecting victim. The trail restarted from the beginning. This strategy became known as infrastructure chaining. Today it seems obvious. Back then, it overwhelmed investigators. Every international request required legal cooperation, court orders, technical analysis, weeks of paperwork. Meanwhile, the hacker had already abandoned the entire infrastructure months earlier. The investigation was constantly chasing history instead of reality. The longer the pursuit continued, the more disciplined the attacker became. Operational security evolved constantly. Communication methods changed. Encryption improved. Disposable identities replaced long-term aliases. Hardware was frequently abandoned. Connections became shorter. Digital fingerprints became smaller. Mistakes became rarer. Ironically, the FBI wasn't losing because investigators lacked skill. They were fighting an opponent who understood investigative methodology almost as well as they did. The hacker anticipated subpoenas, expected surveillance, predicted forensic techniques, and built every operation assuming someone would eventually examine every byte left behind. That mindset changed everything. Eventually, however, even the most disciplined operators face one unavoidable problem: time. Maintaining perfect operational security over many years becomes extraordinarily difficult. Every login, every purchase, every internet connection, every conversation, every piece of hardware, every human interaction adds another opportunity for error. Not a catastrophic mistake, just a tiny inconsistency. One overlooked connection, one reused behavior, one routine repeated often enough to become recognizable. Investigators slowly shifted strategy. Instead of chasing attacks, they began studying patterns: working hours, language habits, target selection, infrastructure lifespans, tool preferences, update schedules. Behavior became more valuable than technical evidence. Machines could be replaced. Behavior was much harder to hide. Gradually, isolated incidents transformed into a recognizable signature. Not a name, not a location, a profile. Someone highly methodical, technically exceptional, patient enough to delay gratification for months, disciplined enough to abandon successful infrastructure before it became risky, comfortable operating almost entirely alone. That mindset changed everything.
Subscribe if you find these videos interesting. Join Axiom Black as we uncover the stories hidden beneath the surface.